Hello and welcome. So, today we're going to learn how to land the Su-25T. This is the default Easy Landing training mission. There's a gentle breeze in the mission and visibility is good. The man himself, Matt Wagner, is going to instruct us on how to put this aircraft safely on the ground, and I'll make some comments from time to time. Into the cockpit.
In this lesson, we're going to learn how to navigate to an airfield and land on it. There are three navigation modes that we'll be using: en route, return to base, and landing. These submodes are selected automatically at the appropriate points along the assigned flight path, but they can also be cycled manually. In this lesson, we'll use the automatic method. I currently have the lesson paused as I explain some of the finer points. Press the spacebar to continue. What we'll learn in this lesson is how to navigate to a waypoint using en route mode, switch to return mode automatically, and then switch to landing mode automatically. We're currently in en route mode as indicated in the bottom left corner of the HUD. This mode allows us to fly from waypoint to waypoint in sequence automatically, as we did in the prior navigation lesson. However, in this lesson, we'll try manual selection. Our current waypoint is 0, our starting point, as indicated in the bottom right corner of the HUD with a range of 0. Press left control and tilde to manually select waypoint 1. Good. You will now see that waypoint 1 is selected with a range of 8.6 kilometers. Press left control and tilde again to select waypoint 2. You can see that waypoint 2 is 15.5 kilometers from us. As we learned in the prior lesson, we can see the direct heading to the waypoint is indicated by the yellow arrow on the HSI, and the twin white arrows indicate our path to fly the course line. Directly above the HSI is the Attitude Director Indicator, or ADI. This is a sphere with one hemisphere white and one hemisphere black. In the center of the ADI is a white aircraft symbol. This aircraft symbol stays stationary in pitch, but will rotate as you maneuver and roll. The ADI ball will move in pitch in relation to the aircraft symbol. When the aircraft symbol center is over black, your nose is below the horizon. If the aircraft symbol center is over white, your nose is pointing above the horizon. Press the spacebar to continue. In the center of the ADI are two yellow lines that help assist you reach the waypoint via the course line. The course line is a direct line between two waypoints. The vertical line indicates your required azimuth steering to reach and maintain the course line. When the yellow vertical line is centered on the ADI, you are flying on or to the course line. If the vertical line is off to either side, put your stick in that direction until the vertical line centers on the ADI and adjust your roll to keep it centered. The yellow horizontal line indicates your elevation course steering. When centered on the ADI, you are flying at or to the set course altitude for that waypoint. If the yellow line is on the lower half of the ADI, push the stick forward until the yellow horizontal line centers on the ADI and adjust pitch to keep it centered. Conversely, if the yellow horizontal line is above the center line of the ADI, pull back on the stick until the line centers. Along the top and left side of the ADI are your heading and elevation deviation scales. The more the lines are from center, the greater you are off the direct path to reach the waypoint. Let's practice this as we fly to waypoint 2. I will unpause the lesson when you press the spacebar.
Okay, here we go.
You will first need to intercept the course line between waypoints 1 and 2. Note that the ADI steering bars and the HUD navigation circle provide us the same information. Fly the aircraft to center the ADI steering bars by adjusting the pitch and roll to keep the bars centered on the ADI.
Okay, let's pause this. Pitch and roll. In most cases, what Matt is saying would be correct. The roll isn't a problem. In this case, the pitch would be. When your waypoints are far apart, you can keep that horizontal line centered without much problem. But in our case today, the distance between waypoints is so short that if we do as Matt directed, the altitude change will be drastic. In addition to turning, we'd be diving toward the ground, picking up a lot of excess airspeed that we couldn't control, and then suddenly find ourselves having to pull up. In that case, one of two things would have to happen. Either we'd blow right through the required altitude, or we'd yank back on the stick and cause an accelerated stall. And even if we didn't stall, we'd be awfully close to it. And so I'm going to cheat. I'll be aiming for the course line as instructed, but since we have a while before we're going to arrive at the waypoint, I'm going to make the altitude change more gradual. I'm paying close attention to the left-right direction of the ADI and/or HUD, but simply losing altitude more gradually, which will give me better control of things. We just want to arrive at the waypoint close to the required altitudes that we're ready for the next switch. And now, back to map.
Or you can fly to keep the navigation circle on the HUD in the very center of the pitch and bank indicator. The choice is yours. Also remember that the assigned airspeed and altitude for the waypoint are indicated as smaller digits above your current airspeed and altitude. Fly to waypoint 2.
Notice that the vertical yellow line has been directing us to intercept the course line. We've passed it slightly now, and the indicator is directing us to bank the other way. Okay, so now we're pretty much on the course line and almost at altitude. Just need to adjust it a bit. You'll see the yellow needle on the HSI swing to the right and keep pointing at the waypoint as we pass it, until the next point selected.
Nice job. As you may have noticed, the waypoint automatically cycled to waypoint 3. Go ahead and fly to waypoint 3 along the course line and maintain a speed of around 400 kilometers per hour.
Okay, the course change is a bit less drastic this time, but even so, I'm not going to chase that altitude change. Just as before, I want to arrive at the waypoint at the required altitude as indicated on the ADI. Horizontal needle coming up toward our aircraft symbol. Flight director circle on the HUD, more or less centered under the aircraft data, which suggests I'm a little bit high. Okay, actually according to the ADI, I'm more or less at altitude. Now I'm a bit low, so now it's directing me upwards. Okay, so I'm centered on the course line according to the ADI, but still a bit low. But when we pick up the ILS, we'll be a bit high, so I'm going to stay right where I am. Watch.
Now that you've reached the last en route waypoint, notice the return mode has automatically been selected as indicated as RTN in the lower left corner of the HUD. Your navigation steering will now provide you steering to intercept the instrumented landing system beams at the proper heading and altitude. The airfield return number, in this case MOSDOC, is displayed in the lower right corner of the HUD as number 17. Fly the assigned return navigation.
We've got the ILS.
We've now entered the ILS beams and have automatically switched to the landing mode as indicated by the LNDG indication in the bottom left corner of the HUD. The ILS contains a glide slope beam to help guide you vertically, and the localizer beam helps you to guide horizontally. Below the landing indication is a K indication that lets you know that you have captured the ILS beams. The upside down L in the lower left side of the HUD indicates that you are on glide slope. If you have not already done so, reduce your airspeed to less than 400 kilometers per hour and lower your landing gear by pressing G. If you need to, deploy your air brakes by pressing B. Lower your landing flaps by pressing left shift and F. Press the spacebar to continue. Also on the HUD are a large and small circle. The large circle is your director circle. As in other modes, fly the aircraft to center the circle inside the pitch and roll indicator in the center of the HUD. The smaller circle is your glide slope error circle. Like the director circle, you want to center this in the pitch and roll indicator. If the director circle is above the roll and pitch indicator, you are too high, and conversely, if it is below the roll and pitch indicator. If the director circle is left of the center and pitch and roll indicator, it means you are left of the localizer beam, and conversely, if it is right of the roll and pitch indicator. Once on glide slope, use pitch to control your airspeed and throttle to control your altitude.
Coming down the glide slope at the right altitude, and we're centered on the ADI, which means we're in the center of the glide slope. At roughly 8.5 kilometers from the runway, we'll pick up the PRMG on the HSI. There. These bars are now active. Okay, so now we do everything slow and easy. It takes time for these engines to spool up or down, so any throttle changes are not instantaneous. You need to be patient and wait for the changes you've made to take effect. Otherwise, you're going to over-control. If you're using the HUD, always follow the director's circle until you're nearly down. If you follow it, that smaller circle will end up centered inside the director's circle. That's where you want it. Gradually slowing. We should be crossing the outer marker soon.
You just passed the outer marker beacon, and your airspeed should be between 290 and 310 kilometers per hour and on glide slope.
We're good on airspeed. Circle centered. This velocity bar in the upper left corner indicates whether you are generally losing speed, gaining speed, or more or less maintaining speed. Once it's centered, with just slight changes to the throttle, you can either slightly gain or slightly lose speed.
You have now passed the inner marker beacon, and your airspeed should be between 250 and 270 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit fast. I usually like to cross the threshold at 290, but okay, Matt, we'll do it your way.
You just passed the runway threshold. When the radar altimeter indicates 5 meters, reduce the throttle to idle and flare the nose such that the sink rate, as indicated on the right side of the HUD, is between 1 and 2 meters per second. Once all the wheels are on the ground and your speed is below 250 kilometers per hour, release the brake and chute by pressing P. Hold down the W key to apply the wheel brakes until the aircraft comes to a complete stop.
104. Заруливайте на стоянку.
Well, that wasn't my best landing. I should have just crossed the threshold like I normally do and then cut the throttle to land. We were light enough that his direction was technically correct. I just like that bit of extra speed on the way in case something goes wrong. And changing my mind at the last second wasn't the best decision. I had to hold off that landing and touch down harder than I would have preferred. But any landing you can walk away from, I guess. Hope you learned something useful today. Thank you. You have control.